Imagine a powder keg, already simmering, suddenly engulfed in flames. That's the chilling reality unfolding in the Middle East right now. Just hours ago, the world held its breath, clinging to the fragile hope of a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. A truce brokered with immense international pressure, promising a glimmer of de-escalation. But that hope, ladies and gentlemen, has not just faded, it has been violently extinguished. In a stunning and deeply alarming development, the United States has launched precision strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities, shattering the illusion of peace and plunging an already volatile region into an unprecedented level of chaos. This isn't just a headline, it's a seismic shift in global geopolitics, with ramifications that could echo for decades. What led to this catastrophic turn? What does it mean for the millions caught in the crossfire, and indeed, for the entire world? Stay with us as we unravel the terrifying timeline of events that has pushed the Middle East to the very brink. The path to this moment has been fraught with tension, a relentless dance on the precipice of full-scale war. For weeks, the world watched as a dangerous tit-for-tat escalated between Iran and Israel. Missile exchanges, drone attacks, cyber warfare. Each incident pushing the boundaries further, each retaliatory strike threatening to ignite the entire region. International bodies, led by the United Nations and a coalition of major powers, worked tirelessly, almost desperately, to pull the two nations back from the brink. Diplomatic shuttles flew, phone lines buzzed with urgent calls, and backroom negotiations stretched into the early hours. Finally, a breakthrough was announced, a tentative ceasefire, a fragile agreement to halt hostilities and allow for de-escalation talks. The news was met with a collective sigh of relief, a brief moment of optimism that perhaps, just perhaps, reason would prevail. Stock markets saw a minor rebound, and global leaders issued cautious statements of hope. But the ink on that agreement was barely dry when the first reports of its unraveling began to trickle in. Allegations of breaches from both sides, small skirmishes that quickly spiraled, accusations of bad faith. It became clear, horrifyingly quickly, that this ceasefire was less a foundation for peace and more a temporary pause, a breath held before the next, inevitable plunge. And then, the unthinkable happened. In the dead of night, a series of coordinated, high-precision strikes rocked several locations deep within Iran. The targets, facilities identified by intelligence agencies as critical to Iran's nuclear program. The perpetrator, the United States. While details remain scarce and official confirmations are carefully worded, sources indicate that advanced stealth technology and long-range missiles were employed, bypassing Iran's sophisticated air defense systems. Eyewitness accounts from near the targeted sites describe massive explosions, followed by a surreal silence, then the wail of sirens. Satellite imagery, though still being analyzed, reportedly shows significant damage to key infrastructure. This wasn't a minor warning shot, this was a decisive, strategic blow. The stated aim, according to initial leaks from Washington, was to degrade Iran's nuclear enrichment capabilities and send an unequivocal message that further escalation by Tehran would not be tolerated. But the immediate consequence has been a dramatic and dangerous escalation, far beyond what many analysts had predicted. The question now isn't just about Iran's nuclear ambitions, but about the immediate, terrifying reality of open conflict involving a global superpower. Iran's response has been swift, furious, and predictably defiant. State media, initially silent, erupted with condemnation, portraying the strikes as an act of blatant aggression and a declaration of war. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei vowed harsh revenge, and the Revolutionary Guard Corps issued a statement promising a painful and proportionate response that would make the aggressors regret their actions. While the exact nature of this retaliation remains to be seen, the possibilities are chilling. Iran possesses a vast arsenal of ballistic missiles, a network of proxy forces across the region, and significant cyber capabilities. Will they target U.S. assets in the Gulf? Will they unleash their proxies on Israel or Saudi Arabia? Will they attempt to disrupt global oil shipping lanes, sending shockwaves through the world economy? The immediate aftermath has seen a surge in oil prices, a plunge in global stock markets, and a palpable sense of fear and uncertainty gripping international capitals. The world is holding its breath once more, but this time, the air is thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder and the chilling prospect of a wider, more devastating conflict. The stakes in this conflict are astronomically high, primarily due to the specter of nuclear proliferation. Iran has consistently maintained that its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes, but Western intelligence agencies and the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, have long expressed concerns about its potential for weaponization. The recent strikes targeted facilities believed to be involved in uranium enrichment and heavy water production, components crucial for developing nuclear weapons. The US and its allies have repeatedly stated that they will not allow Iran to acquire a nuclear bomb, viewing it as an existential threat to regional stability and global security. These strikes represent a dramatic shift from diplomatic pressure and sanctions to direct military intervention aimed at physically dismantling parts of Iran's nuclear infrastructure. The danger now is a desperate, unconstrained race towards nuclear capability by Iran, or a miscalculation that leads to the use of unconventional weapons. The world has rarely faced such a direct confrontation over nuclear capabilities since the Cold War, and the implications are truly terrifying. The ripple effect of these strikes across the Middle East is already evident and deeply concerning. Regional alliances are being tested, and fault lines are widening. Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states, while privately relieved by the US action against their regional rival, are also acutely aware of their own vulnerability to Iranian retaliation. Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, already fragile states, could see their internal conflicts intensify as Iranian-backed militias are activated. Hezbollah in Lebanon, a heavily armed and trained proxy, could launch a devastating barrage of rockets into Israel, triggering a full-scale war on Israel's northern border. The Houthi rebels in Yemen, emboldened by Iranian support, could escalate attacks on shipping in the Red Sea, further disrupting global trade. The delicate balance of power in the region, already precarious, has been violently upended, threatening to unleash a cascade of interconnected conflicts that could destabilize the entire global order. Millions of lives hang in the balance as the region braces for what comes next. International reactions have been a mix of condemnation, alarm, and urgent calls for de-escalation. Russia and China, both with significant interests in the region and often at odds with US foreign policy, have sharply condemned the strikes, calling them a violation of international law and a dangerous provocation. They have urged all parties to exercise maximum restraint and return to the negotiating table, though their influence in this rapidly unfolding crisis remains uncertain. European nations, while sharing US concerns about Iran's nuclear program, have expressed deep apprehension about the military escalation, fearing a wider conflict that could trigger a new refugee crisis and further destabilize global energy markets. The United Nations Security Council is reportedly holding emergency sessions, but finding a consensus on a path forward will be incredibly challenging given the deep divisions among its permanent members. Diplomacy, already strained, now faces its greatest test, with the very real possibility that it may be too late to prevent a full-blown regional war.